Welcome to Chasing Prophecy Radio, where we discuss the unidentified, the unexplainable, paranormal, conspiracies, and much more. Starring your host and co-host, Jenny Nicasio, Sean Kelly, and Jason Sledgehammer and Petro. Brought to you by UPRN Network. Now for your host, Jenny Nicasio.
Good evening and welcome to Chasing Prophecy on UPRN FM 105.3 in New Orleans, where we discuss anything and everything beyond the scope of normal. I'm Jenny Nicasio, along with my co-host Sean Kelly, Jason and Petro, and our special guest host again, John Ventry. Hi, boys.
Hey,
Hello.
hello.
Happy
Welcome
Torture Tuesday.
Yeah.
And have you been behaving yourself this week?
No.
Yes.
No.
John?
I didn't go for tacos today, so.
Oh, thank God.
Oh, Taco Tuesday. Okay. Yeah. Oh,
Hey, Ren, how are you? Good to see you, buddy.
I see we got a little sick boy on the set.
Yeah, I got COVID Sunday.
Oh, he got the vid.
Yeah, I did.
How many times does this make?
One.
One?
First one. Yep.
First
I
time.
thought you
First
had
time.
it already.
And I'm
No, I
sure you're
didn't.
triple vaxxed.
Triple that. I did. I got my regular shot and then I had to get 2 other ones, man.
You
Oh,
know,
I see what
It's
happened.
keeping from getting you deathly ill.
everybody is going to end up getting it.
Oh,
Vaccine or not, everybody is going to get it.
I'm telling you.
My son just got it Sunday too. So, and you know, he hid in the house for 2 years because he works
2
at home.
years.
So they
His first
really
day
didn't.
out. His
I'm
first day out in the
serious.
public.
First
He
day out
gets
of the
COVID.
house, he gets
It was
COVID.
about 18 months before they left the house.
Oh,
And I got it off my mom. I got it off my mom and she was sick for like 3 days. I mean, she couldn't move and she slept and then right after she got better, that's when I caught it. So
Did she sneeze right on you?
I don't know what she did, man. She was out of it. Now I take care of my mom, Jason. I take care of her. I get her drinks. I get her food.
She gave
You
you
know.
a big kiss on
Did
the
you wear a
cheek.
mask?
That's what it was.
No, I didn't wear a mask.
Lysol
Well,
the door handles.
I got it twice, and I do not want to get it again. And it was
It
the
sucks,
first time
man.
was really bad because it was I
It
didn't have
sucks.
no smell, no taste.
It'll make you stronger. Don't worry about it.
I hope
What?
so.
I
About
almost
the
feel
no
like
taste.
I almost feel like the strands that are going around now are weaker than when it first came
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
That's
I
mine was
remember
first.
when I had it when it first came. Oh, I thought I was gonna die. I thought that was it.
That's what I told my son. This is a weaker strain.
Well,
Yes.
speaking of the no taste, that's true because I don't have no taste of food. Then my doctor put me on this medication. Begins with Petadol, whatever it is. You take 6 pills.
Oh, you
in a
took
day.
the antivirus one.
Yeah, so I'm on that, and that made my taste worse because
You know what I
Sorry.
hated was when I lost my taste and smell. I like coffee a lot, and it was just putting down just hot
Everything
water.
tastes like
there was
onions
no
to me.
flavor whatsoever, and I was like, oh my God, if I'm never gonna taste coffee.
Ren
Yeah,
got it right.
sulfur.
Do you
Ren got
realize
the
that
word.
all of the symptoms that you described also happen to alien abductees? And we could talk about that with Earl Grey.
Oh, yes, we will. So let's go ahead and bring Earl on. Earl Gray, his short little biography he sent me. He's a MUFON state director, I must say, Southern California, and an active member of MUFON's ERT, the Experienced Resource Team. And I'm going to have to know. I'm going to have to find out what that all is. And
That's the
host,
abduction team. The old
okay.
abduction team. That's what it is.
And he's also hosted both experiencer workshops at this year's MUFON
Symposium.
I can't say
There
that.
you go.
In Denver, Colorado, Earl has personally investigated over 800 UFO reports. That's awesome. And specializes in experiencer high strangeness cases. Now, we'll have to think about that. Does that have anything to do with the strangers? You know, he has appeared on multiple rodeo shows. I'm out of it today. Podcasts
rodeo
and TV shows.
Rodeo.
Such as
Rodeo.
Unidentified. Okay.
Where's your cowboy hat?
Oh, I actually had it here. He's also been on the Travel Channel, storming Area 51 special, and the season finale of Motor Trend Motion. That's why you don't take Ativan in the morning, and then by the evening you're a little. I have no reason for it. Okay, let's start over. No, Earl teaches an accredited course in ufology in Los Angeles, and Otis College of Art and Design in native Southern California. Earl was also known as a published singer. Ooh, what will you sing for me? And guitarist. That's great. With 3 CDs under your belt, huh? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's impressive. Okay. Well, let's get back to, you have a wonderful family and 2 cats. So go ahead.
I brought my Mardi Gras alien for you because we're in the Big Easy. So anyway, there you go. I'm not going to tell you what he had to do to get these beads. I don't know what he showed.
I wonder.
First question for Earl. What is your favorite guitar?
I'm a Fender Stratocaster boy myself.
Okay, nice American.
Yeah. Oh, that's my baby. Yeah.
I'm a guitar player myself, so I just had to ask.
Cool. What do you play?
Paul Reed's my favorite, and then Ibanez is like my second.
I like Ibanez. Yeah. Well, our communal guitar is an acoustic Ibanez that my wife has.
Sound good,
we're both musicians. Players,
that's awesome.
Songwriters, singers, and all that good stuff. So, and she deals with my weird UFO stuff, quite well. Actually, she's gotten used to it.
That's
I do have a Fender Telecaster though.
Nice.
Tellies
One
are
Fender
nice.
in my collection, and that's it.
I can never figure out what to do with my right palm on a telly, though. There's nothing to rest it on. You have to just kind of do this, and reach in.
Kind of wing it.
I'm too lazy for a telly, so I like a Strat.
I just like the clean tones for recording. Like it's just
they're clean.
That's got its very own. Yeah.
Just don't buy one on eBay, though, Earl.
No, I don't do that.
I did, and I got a child size.
At least it wasn't a Mickey Mouse guitar or anything.
No, but I was
the kind you wind and it plays.
I just wanted to start again. I played when I was in high school, and I wanted to get one and save some money, and it's like about this little. It's so cute.
I actually made our intro. If you heard it.
Yes, he did.
Oh, I heard it. It was great. That was you. Wow, you can shred, man.
He did it. He did a good job.
He's a shredder.
But we have to get John in, but John can't get in until he's on full time. So when he gets, because it's a lot of work doing that.
It's not exactly just hey, here you go. I was like,
well, tell us about how you got it going.
Well, it's a long story, but we got an hour, I guess. I'll try to make it quick.
Tuesday struck already. On? There goes the green screen.
My green screen.
Green screen injuries. Is that possible?
I give up. I just give up. I really did. I shouldn't have come on tonight.
You're doing fabulously. Don't worry about it.
That was my
and I love the hat. Too.
That was my new retractable green screen.
It's a very cool hat and a good look. It's Liza Minnelli 1970 kind of, which is cool, which I like. So there you go. So the way I got into this thing, it kind of, I don't know. I was sort of born loving outer space. One of my earliest memories is climbing up to the top of a wooden swing set that my dad built in our backyard in Venice, California, and had some monkey bars on top. And I was about 3.5 years old. And I took the leftover wood and I nailed together a reasonable facsimile of a spaceship for a 3-year-old, right? I drew little controls on it with crayons or something, and begged my dad to haul it up on top of the monkey bars. And I remember my mom was doing the dishes and she's looking out the window and she's going, "Earl, who are you waving to and who are you singing to out there?" And I said, "The space people. I'm waving and singing to the space people." And here I am 60 years later, and I'm still kind of doing the same thing, still waving and singing to the space people. So, but when it became kind of personal was it's one of my earliest memories again. Luckily, I have a very good memory. I don't know how that happened, but I do. And when I was about 5 years old, my mom told me this very strange story. she told me that now the whole family knew that my mom had been one of Howard Hughes's 2 private secretaries. She worked over the Sepulveda Hughes building here in Santa Monica. And she worked there for about 6 or 7 years. But it was at the end of the mid-50s to 1959 when I was born. And that's when she retired from Hughes. And I think she decided she was retired altogether. She was going to become the proverbial housewife and do the American dream thing, you know. But anyway, what we weren't really aware of was what my mom told me. She told me the story about how they took her out to the desert. Her and a little team, a couple of guys, security guys, of course. I don't think she called them that then, but that she said that there was this concrete shack in the middle of the desert. And she didn't tell me what desert it was, but she said that they took me in this shack and there was this elevator and we got in, and they gave her no preamble whatsoever, didn't tell her what to expect. They just sent her out there. I don't know if they sent her in a plane or if it was close enough to drive. I mean, the way I'm figuring, it was either in White Sands, because I know she was working there for a while, or maybe even Area 51. I've done some research and I've talked with Richard Souter, who's done quite a deep study on Area 51. And he tells me that Howard Hughes had one of the first, independent labs in that complex in Area 51. I guess there's even blueprints that have been, that they're out there now. So, but anyway, wherever it was, she went in this elevator and it kept going down. She thought it was going to go down a floor or two. She was already surprised that she was in this facility, whatever it was. She wasn't expecting it. She said she started getting scared because she felt, quote, butterflies in her stomach. She started, feeling vertigo. It was going at kind of a clip and kept on going down. And she said that when the doors opened up, that they were in this little city that was under the desert. She said that there were people that lived down there for long periods of time. They had cafes. They had a bowling alley. She said that they even had a guy that could do her hair. They had a barber shop. I guess it wasn't a beauty shop. I don't know how many women were working down there at the time. I kind of get the feeling my mom was one of the earliest, women that was working down in this facility. But it was a weird story, and I kind of, that was kind of the end of it. She, subject was closed, and I went on and watched Felix the Cat or whatever was on TV that day, but I never forgot it. And I kept, to my mom's disdain, I kept bringing it up to her over the years. And after a while, she was like, son, I wasn't supposed to talk about this to you. But what, my mom also talked about alien life in the universe, and she would talk with authority about it. She wouldn't say what her sources were, but she would say things like, well, we already know that we're not alone in the universe, son. The government already knows this. It's already a done deal. It's already known, and the public doesn't know, but that's how it goes. We aren't alone. And so about 4th grade, I went and I gave a show and tell. What do your parents do? Now, my mom never said you can't talk about this. I mean, she was surprised I even remembered it, and I don't think she thought I cared about it very much, but I just kept thinking about it. And I gave a little show and tell and talked about my mom and working in a deep underground lab, and that UFOs were a real thing and we're not alone. And they scheduled a parent teacher conference with my mom, and she came in. And I remember distinctly, I was just playing in the little playground at our, it was Acacia Grammar School in Thousand Oaks is where I was at. When we left, it was no big deal. I got in the car, and she wasn't angry at me. She didn't yell at me or anything, but she just was very matter of fact. She said, son, I'm very, very sorry, but I had to tell your teacher that you have a very, very good imagination. I was not supposed to tell you what I told you. And your mother could get into really bad trouble. She actually said your mother could go to prison.
Oh my God.
If you talk
Wow.
about this, you
That's
can't talk
terrible.
about it. The public doesn't know. Yeah, but I mean, our nation has its secrets, and that's one of them. I mean, it's kind of amazing to me that even just the drip disclosure we're getting right now, I didn't expect it. It took me by surprise. I thought that Tic Tac and all that was, I was questioning it at first, but now it's we know what it was and what it is, and I think that it just the pressure of this, they've been sitting on it since before 1947, I believe. It goes back to St. Gerardo and some of the earliest cases. I think that they've been aware of it. And back then, they didn't really know how to compartmentalize the way that they do now with their secrets. Now it's, I mean, you don't tell anybody everything. I don't think that people like my mom really exist out there that know everything. But she was taking note. This is the thing, is that she was the person, the stenographer that sat in the meetings with the high-powered generals and stuff that met. And she was taking the notes for these meetings and stuff. So she kind of heard it all. And it didn't go in one ear and out one ear. My mom was a very intelligent and interested person who's interested in everything. And it made quite a mark on her. So this was the core and the seed of my interest in this. As the years went by, sometimes my mom would be a little more forthcoming about it. I took her, she kept having cancers over the years, and through my own studies, I've found that this is not uncommon for people that work in DUMBs, deep underground military bases. That a lot of people, I think that, I've heard some stuff that they didn't know how to block. They probably used a nuclear core down there for energy. I mean, I'm sure they were off the grid. They were running it off of something.
Probably radon gas. And
they didn't know how to protect people very well back then. I mean, I don't think they still really know how to do
some
that.
canaries down there, see if they survive.
Yeah. But she had a cancer, one of many cancer scares, and she got a clear screening. And we were in Santa Monica. It was close to where she used to work. This was back in 1977. And so she, I was there kind of support with her, and she, we were going to go get lunch. And I said, let's go see this new movie. Time Magazine, there's the Star Wars thing is playing. It's playing right over here around the corner. And it was a week before, this was a day that Time Magazine came out. So there wasn't a line. We were the only two people in that theater. People didn't know about the movie yet. So we sat there and we watched Star Wars, and the curtains closed. My mom she told me all this stuff. She said, Earl, you have no idea how close to the truth this is. The different races, the spaceships, and just... it's so close to the truth. And she said, it's real, and it's realer than you'll ever know. Actually, it's realer than you'll ever know, because they're never going to tell the public. They're afraid of how the public will react. And at the time she told me that, 1977, I was currently taking pre-seminary classes. Now, so it was an inconvenient truth. I didn't really have room for aliens and God, I mean, at that now I have no problem. It all comes together easily. But back then, I guess I was more compartmentalized, and I couldn't see how that could be. And I was almost like sticking my fingers in my ears and going la 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 la, because I didn't want to hear it. I mean, I just I was currently reading the Gospel of John in Koine Greek, and trying to get through that at the time, and this was a whole other something I was maybe ready for a few years before that, but certainly not then. So I kind of packed it away, and as time went on, I became more and more interested in the phenomena, just astronomy itself. I'm like the guy that had all the Arthur Clarke books and the Carl Sagan books and the Asimov stories. And, I've always been kind of, obsessed with this stuff. So later on in my life, in my mom's life, she got cancer yet again, and she was on her deathbed, 1999. And I got one more big kind of disclosure from her where I was mad that she was sick, and I wanted her to go after the government. I wanted to lawyer up and get her to sue and disclose and I wanted to see heads roll. This was my mom. I didn't think that, we weren't rich by any stretch, I mean, she worked at that point, she worked as a private corporate headhunter for different aerospace companies. And she was busy, she was working for Skunk Works and for Northrop. And, I got lots of stories I could tell you, but we don't have that long. But on her deathbed, I was, wanting to get her to sue, and she said, I would never sue my government, son. She said, I always knew there were risks.
Let's sue them.
That was nice of her.
Yeah. She said, I was a patriot. It's just like a soldier going to war, and I would do it again, even if I knew the consequences. I did my duty.
Do you think that maybe she didn't want to do that for protection of you?
That's possible.
Because if she leaked, they could
maybe
go after her family. Possibly.
She certainly got upset when I would, there was one time, a friend of ours who was he was, a very smart guy and another astronomy buff. But he was the type that he subscribed to Skeptical Inquirer and he didn't believe in any of the stuff that we love here. Right. And he was just kind of peeing me off a little bit. So I took him bodily over to my mom. At that point, she was in a hospital bed, but it's like, Mom, would you tell Ken that you worked in a deep underground base and tell him that UFOs are real, please? And well, she didn't talk about the UFOs, but she talked about the underground base. She said, well, where do you think we hide our secrets? Where would you hide yours? If you had, unlimited money and you wanted to hide your secrets, you go underground, and that's where I worked. Yes. I'm a headhunter for aerospace. Well, we all got our start somewhere, and that's where I got mine. And Earl isn't lying to you.
Earl, did your mother have any encounters, any alien encounters, abductions, anything like that?
She would hint about stuff, and I've heard things from other officials since then that I've met and who have, spoken to me in confidence. I probably shouldn't name anybody, to where, they've actually read bits from my mom's file and stuff to me. And apparently my mom was involved in the early dealings that we had with ETs, to the best of my knowledge. She never told me that, but I've heard that from very, very good sources, from people that, received, part of that $25 million that Congress gave for, investigation into this stuff. Some of those guys. So anyway, but I'm not really at liberty to talk too much about it.
So let me ask you another question. With you said you started out in the seminary and studying God. How do you reconcile now creation along with aliens in space? Because that's not talked about in the Bible. It's life is only here on Earth, and it was created. It was not evolved. So how in your mind have you thought that through as to where did it all come from out there?
I see the Bible differently than I did then. I treat it like an adult, like grown up literature now than I did back then, rather than face value. Sometimes it got parables in it. It has poetry in it. The Song of Solomon is more or less an ode. Solomon is telling a woman that he wants to make love to her, and that's in the Bible. And there are books that I think should be in the Bible, like the Book of Enoch. I think tells us a lot of stuff. I think the Book of Enoch should have been canonized, but it wasn't. But
so
I think
you don't think the Bible is. Do you think it's more parable and mythology and storytelling than being the Word of God?
I think that for myself, I consider myself a Christian, but I've thrown a lot of bathwater out over the years. I've seen a lot of bad behavior from Christians, my contemporaries, and I tend to relate to UFO people more than a lot of my contemporary, people that follow the religion I follow. But yeah, I consider myself a Christian. I pray to Jesus still,
Any abduction stories with you, like Joe Jordan, where people called upon Jesus to rid themselves of the alien?
Well, that's interesting. That Kathleen Martin she got me into the ERT.
Right.
I met with her to talk about an encounter that I had, and I didn't know, but it was actually she was kind of checking me out for the RT, and after the she asked me if I wanted to join the ERT. I said sure. I'll when do I do my interview and stuff? And she said you just did it. That's what you just did. Yeah.
What was your encounter again?
After I became a field investigator, I tried a little bit of the CE5 thing, and I met the little short gray guys with the black eyes, and I went through that whole scary thing. It scared the hell out of me. My wife had an encounter. Our house flooded with light, and I couldn't move, and they came through the wall, and they took blood and DNA from me. Whoa. It scared the hell out of me. I was telling them, I started rebuking them in the name of Jesus. That didn't work, actually. They got what they wanted to get, and they left. And I don't think they were demons. I don't think they were devils. I think they were, they were doing kind of what we would do if we had, had an animal reserve, and we were, wanting to check the blood type and stuff of a lion or something. What do? You paralyze them so they can't kill you. And then because the entities are frail looking, at least the little gray guys. The guys I saw, if I could have gotten my hands on them, I could have hurt them.
Where is
it? But you can't get your hands on them.
Right there.
Do you think there's a specific reason they chose you over
probably because of my mom, and because I joined MUFON, and suddenly I was doing UFO cases. That's my guess.
So
and they probably knew I'd be doing this.
It's generational, kind of you believe?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Every single abduction case, it starts like the grandmother, and it goes generational. They're interested in certain bloodlines for some.
Do you think that these encounters these things that you see could change their form?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be afraid?
I think that they're much. I think that they have technological advancements that we have no idea how to reproduce. I think that we're trying. I think that we're that reverse engineering. We've been trying to do that for a long, long time. I think that we've been semi-successful with it. For instance, the black triangular, TR3B, I think is probably ours. They keep seeing it by Plant 42 over here. It's like Lockheed, put one and one together. And I keep having aerospace engineers call me up, and saying, how you can get me on that program? It's like, well, my mom might have been able to, but I can't,
So if you think it's generational, has your son had any? Do you have kids or anything?
Not yet, but I won't be surprised if that happens. Okay. I wouldn't.
Now, would you be supportive of it, or since
I don't know if it's. I don't know if you can be supportive of it, or it just kind of is what it is. I know when it happened to me, I was horrified. I was hoping, when I did the little CE5 thing, I literally said, I want to meet extraterrestrials. You can have my DNA if you want. I did say that. But I was sending out, I was thinking I wanted to meet Valiant Thor, I wanted to meet Space Brothers, or, a pretty girl from the Pleiades or something. And that's not what I got. I didn't specify, and I don't know if it would help if you did specify.
Be careful what you put out in the universe.
Yeah, I that's what I tell people that do the CE5 thing. I say, well, you should specify who you're sending that out to, because it's a big universe, and there's a lot of, there are humans that I wouldn't want to be locked into a room with. Certainly humans I wouldn't want to be locked into a room where I couldn't protect myself, and it's the same thing out there.
Do you view your encounter as positive or negative?
It's become a beautiful and positive thing for me, but when it happened, I was scared to death. I mean, I suffered from ontological shock. I felt like my reality had been pulled out from under me. And the way that I even looked at this phenomenon, it was kind of torn out from under me. But also what started happening is I started experiencing synchronicities. Things started making sense. I would go into just like this case I'm working on right now. It started 7 years ago. It looked like it was a cold case, but these weird coincidences happened where it opened up again. I found the other, I had no way to get a hold of them. The main witness was dead. He didn't leave me with phone numbers or anything, or any way to get a hold of anybody else. And, but coincidentally, I found them just like on social media, and I don't have a whole lot of time to read a lot of social media, but I was looking at this one UFO site and somebody was writing about his encounter, and I immediately recognized the case. I said, oh my God, this is the case I had, and I got a hold of the guy, and now it's like one of the most amazing cases I've ever investigated. So synchronicity is a thing. I believe I'm sorry, let me finish my thought, John. I think that the Valet Davis effect, if you're familiar with that, I think is something that people aren't hearing about enough. There seems to be a cosmic contagion that's passed on through these encounters, and people that are experiencers actually mirror and they start exhibiting what I would consider alien behaviors and gifts, synchronicities, telepathy, even just Kevin Day. He's a dear friend of mine, and he gets little visits from guys in suits that just want to make sure he isn't thinking bad, thinking of earthquakes and stuff, because they told him, you've had a close encounter with a craft and apparently with a being, although we haven't heard a whole lot about that. And they said that we want to make sure that you don't cause the continental plate to fall into the ocean or something. Yeah, you can interpret that how you want. That's what they told him.
Earl, going back to your encounter, where was that at?
It was in Burbank, California. And I'll tell you this, there was no room for to park a spaceship between our house and our neighbor's house.
And it was in your house?
Mm-hmm. I believe that they used some kind of, I don't know, lack of, nomenclature, like a portal or a wormhole.
Okay, it was in your room and it was white.
They came through.
Okay,
I mean, it looked like a sepia brown spinning mass. Our TV was normally there in the wall, but you couldn't see the TV in the wall. It was like the swirling sort of sepia colored mass. And it seemed like somebody had poured cream into the middle of it, and it just spread out and opened. And there was distance and light.
Was this being, was he solid mass? Was it like a ghost?
They were solid. They were real. I could feel them, and they were physical. They were physical beings. They weren't.
And your whole room
spirits.
Lit up in the white light?
It was. I used to think of it as blue, but it wasn't the color blue. It just had the feeling of blue to it. It was very calming at first. I mean, we had a cricket problem in our rafters, and suddenly, for the first time ever, you heard no crickets. You heard no external sounds. Mm-hmm. My wife was dead to the world next to me. And when they came in, they came towards me and they did their thing. And I tried to communicate with them, and they were non-communicative with me. They wouldn't communicate. They left the same way. They left backwards while looking at me. It was as though somebody pulled them away from me. The wall did its Scooby-Doo thing again, went back to its original form. And the first thing I could do was scream and yell. And that's what I did. And my wife was not happy. She's, her whole attitude was, you've joined this crazy UFO group. And oh my God, is this what I have to look forward to? Thankfully, I don't know if I guess I am thankful for it. She doesn't remember anything except for, 2 nights later, she's waking me up, and our room again has light flooding in it with no lights turned on. It was not coming from outside. It was light without a source. And she was shaking me, and she was pacing back and forth by the bed. And she said, "My God, Earl, you need to tell your little friends they need to leave us the F." She used the naughty naughty word, the F alone. I didn't sign up for this, And it's after that, we both woke up, and this time the light was coming from outside of our house. It was coming from over our roof. It was perfectly silent. And as far as I'm concerned, we had a week of encounters, and I think they probably got my wife's DNA and stuff as well, but she has no recollection of it, and she does not want to. So she's not one of the people who's going to get hypnotically regressed, and that's perfectly good. That's, she doesn't want to know.
That's pretty interesting story. But my question to everybody, to you, all the guests that come on, why is it such a big secret with the federal government?
From what I've heard, well, my mom told me that they were afraid of what happened during Orson Welles' radio broadcast of War of the Worlds. And okay. I've been told since then by other people that they're afraid that the whole world might go through ontological shock and just go in a corner and drool, or pick up arms and just shoot randomly.
I can see doing that.
Fight or flight is a human way,
But then again, you're in the 21st century, and everyone just knows there's aliens and UFOs. And
yes,
personally, I think if they see one, they'll be like, "Oh wow, there goes one in the air."
They're becoming more and more forthright about it. It's coming out in dribs and drabs, but I think that's probably the measured way to do this is probably the smart way. Or else you're going to have a bunch of people out there with sudden PTSD. I mean, as John was saying, you have to be able to wrap your religion around it, your philosophy around it, just, everything that makes you. It changes everything. It changes the way that you see everything. And for myself, as far as the Bible goes and stuff, my father's house has many mansions or rooms. This is the proper translation. In my father's house, there's many rooms. And I think that's probably the one place in the New Testament, at least, where it says that there's others out there, that, it's not just Earth, that, why would, God just create us? And the backwater, of the Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way galaxy. It's a big, huge, almost infinite universe. So
I think some of it is also the technology, especially from a military standpoint, is why the government doesn't tell. If we've cut a deal with them, selfishness, we want to hold on to them and get the technology, and you can't, this type of technology cannot get into the hands of Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, the axis of evil. So if we cut a deal,
okay,
I've always thought it's about the technology.
All right, John, then I'll come back at you and say, what if there's a species of aliens that don't like the Americans and decide to go over to Russia, China, Iran, and all them?
They got better.
There's some people that think that happened, in the 40s, but I don't know the veracity of that. But I hear a lot of stuff.
I think you have to believe that if they've gotten to the point that they can do this interstellar travel, that they've gotten beyond a lot of those primitive hostilities, and that these are more benign. But, and this is one of the things I was trying to lead up to you with, are the alien abductions of old were always horrifying. 95% of them was viewed negative. A lot of them bordered on demonic activity, scratching sounds, banging, whatever. Is the alien abduction that you see with the ERT today, are they more positive or negative, or is it still 90% of them are negative?
Yeah, it's changed. People are getting downloads of information. The DNA farming is almost cessated completely. Every now and then I'll hear about somebody that has their DNA taken, but it's the rarity. You don't hear probing stuff. I've never had a probing case. I know two people that have been probed. Whitley has been probed, and a friend of mine from the UK was probed.
Yeah.
And those are the only two guys I know that ever got that treatment.
I find it interesting that this.
Well, didn't Travis Walton get probed?
No, I don't think
so.
he did. No,
he didn't.
But
no.
you know who Ray Hernandez is, right?
He's a very close friend of mine.
Yeah, the Free Organization. So it seems to me that this all changed about 5 years ago with Ray Hernandez when he started saying that the alien abduction is a good thing. And now people are all saying it was positive, it changed me for the better, it became good. But yet we got 70 years of it not being a good thing, you know.
And we still get horror stories too.
Okay,
John.
that's what I'm trying to
we still
get at.
Horror stories.
Did Ray Hernandez influence the thinking?
I know Ray will be if you sit down and have a couple beers with him, he'll chill out a little bit, and even Ray will admit that they're not all positive. That people have some negative stuff, but he doesn't like to talk about.
Well,
that.
I know.
God bless him. I love Renario. He's a close friend. So
yeah, Ray and I got into it 5 years ago. We got into it big time.
You seem to get into it.
I didn't go into this with any presuppositions at all. I didn't have any presuppositions really about this phenomena except for what I'd gone through myself, which was scary. You know, looking back at it, it's not like they harmed me. They didn't threaten me, but they didn't calm me either, you know. And I don't know if they had the capacity to. They seemed very robotic, and maybe that's true, that the little gray guys are biological robots. I've heard that from a couple of good sources. Yeah. And that their intelligence is, you know, a hive mentality. But I don't think that the phenomena is evil. I think that a lot of the scarier cases, it seems, well, this is through my own research, but I've done a lot of research. I mean, I'm from my own cases. I'm not quoting anybody else. Military abduction, I mean, not the military abducting people, but when a person in the military is abducted, it seems to be more aggressive. I think that our visitors treat the military differently. I think that they see them as warrior caste. And it's just like what happened in Montana with the missile base, you know, with Robert Salas, you know, back in '67. They came over and they shut down every missile, and then they put them back online. It was a show of power. The Tic Tac was a show of power. That was for the military as well. They were trying to show them you can't keep up with us on any length. You are the ants and we are the rocket scientists. And I think that some of the more negative stories seem to be, you know, like the Marine that was abducted from out of his barracks roof, you know, and told that we're going to take his soul. They didn't take his soul, but they wanted to scare him, and he was scared, and he was like quoting scripture at him and yelling at him, and he would have killed him if he could have gotten his hands on him. He was a trained Marine, you know. And this man went to Vietnam and came back. He has PTSD, but not from the battlefield. He has PTSD from being taken through the roof of a Marine base and messed with. But I do think they treat the military a little differently. And you have to remember the military, it's all about threat assessment and weaponization, really. And as you were saying, you know, I mean, we have to worry about the Russians, the Chinese, and everybody else. And so it's very cautious and very threat oriented. And so they treat them differently.
How about my labs? Do you have cases where it appears the aliens are working with the military to abduct people?
That's such a good question. And I'm, personally, I haven't made my mind up on it, but I know a lot of smart people that have, and it wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of different factors, a lot of different types of things. Like you got the military involvement. You've got some that come here saying, we want to help you clean up your environment and get rid of nuclear weapons. You got others, like I followed David Jacobs more than Kathleen Martin. And Jacobs' view is that they are here to take over eventually, generation after generation of interbreeding, until they've infiltrated corporations and the government, still have the hive mentality, and they're here to replace us. So, I mean, it goes, from one extreme to the other. What do you think?
Evidence for that, though? I mean, if they're invading us, they're doing a pretty piss poor job of it, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they've had since 1947 at least. All it would take would be, I mean, look what happened with us with just stupid COVID virus.
Yeah.
I mean, they could, if they wanted to get rid of us or take us over, that the Body Snatchers movie was.
Yeah, they wouldn't did it already.
Yeah.
Well, no, not really.
No.
It's only been 4 generations. So if listening to Jake,
well, I don't know if it's 4 generations. I'm actually kind of the valet school of thought, where I think this has been going on throughout history, but I think it ramped up when we, dropped the bomb. I think that ramped things up. But I think it's always been here. I think that they've been here and have been, we might even be their experiment. I mean, I don't know. I try working God into that. I do, I managed to do it, but I have to keep an open mind.
I would love to get you and Joe Jordan together and go at it, because, he takes a very creation religious view to this.
Yeah.
And, it's interesting. He was the South Korean MUFON state director. And
okay, right.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Joe, if you've met him.
I've not met him. I know who he is, though.
Have we ever met at a symposium? Because I think I met you.
I met you in 2000 and was it 16? And there was like the next to the last one in Irvine. I met you. Okay. I met you for like a fleeting moment, and I shook your hand. It's like, oh, John, I love your show.
That was right after
having a reunion.
Yeah, right after Hangar 1. We were doing Hangar 1 and all of that. Now, Jen was one of my field investigators, and I had 7 states as a state director. So, how long have you been a state director in Southern California?
I've been state director for 1 year. I was assistant state director for 5 years before that, and I've been state director for 1 year now. I love it. I didn't know I would, but I do.
That's a chapter I've always admired, because they were able to raise a lot of money. How many people do you have in Southern California? How many FIs? How many subscribers?
Subscribers, I'd have to look the number up, but we have a large number. Field investigators right now, we have 9 that are working for me, including myself.
Okay. Yeah.
But I have some good people. I've got 2 astrophysicists. One of them works for NASA, but I can't talk about her because she's afraid that NASA might fire her if they knew. Yeah. I've got another guy who's going for his doctorate in astronomy right now over at Santa Cruz. And I've just gotten 2 other of my field investigators in the ERT, because I noticed that they had a propensity for the experiencer cases. And it takes a kind of a gentle hand and a calming voice and a sound mind to be able to handle those, because they're weird cases. I mean, the wrong person, it could make them go over the edge,
Well, you know Doc Medich, right?
Oh, I love George.
Yeah. Well, he was. Let me just real quick. When I was in high school,
I know you guys are close friends. He's always talking about.
I would watch him. So. I'd watch him pitch for the Yankees on TV.
Oh,
he was a major league pitcher. Then he went to the Pirates, Milwaukee, all of that. So he contacts me and wants to be a field investigator. And I said, great, but like you, I after a few years, I said to him, Doc, you're a doctor. We need you with the abduction, because you have that mentality, the medical field. So I got him involved with Kathy and the abductions, and now he's the head of the whole thing.
Bless you.
So I mean that worked out great.
Because he's perfect for it.
He's definitely.
He's such a shucks kind of guy, but he's deep, and
he don't want to talk about being a major league pitcher. Every time he comes to our conferences here, I always say, George Doc Medich, remember he pitched for the Pirates here. So.
He does like to hear, though. He just pretends like he doesn't.
All right.
Yeah, he likes to hear. You just got to acknowledge it and just kind of then drop it,
Yeah.
But no, he likes to hear that.
Well, Southern California to me was always one of the better chapters. Do you still have those monthly meetings where you bring speakers in and you get big crowds?
COVID kind of did its number on us. We were having the Zoom meetings for a long time, but I'm about to start in-person meetings again. We were going to start them last month, and then our numbers started going up again. Yeah. There were people that were complaining that got sick at the symposium, but I mean, I think that now it's to the point where it's just kind of ridiculous. We just have to get on, and that's what I'm going to be doing. So I do have a venue for it. We've got like a little music venue that a friend of mine who's a kind of a closet UFO buff owns. And that's where we were doing our live meetings. I mean, we were getting some wonderful guests. We had Paul Hynek and
everybody.
We had great people. So that should start rolling again in a couple of months, and you'll see that in the journal once we do.
Yeah. Now you may have lost the symposium from California because the headquarters is Cincinnati now.
Well, that's okay because I'm on the symposium board now.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you can. Well, I mean, the California gets the best crowd, and I guess Vegas is pretty good too. And I don't think when you come to Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, you're not going to draw the kind of crowd you draw out in California. Just not.
We'll see. I don't know. Denver was pretty impressive, and it was.
Well, it's been there
that
for a
was
long
my
time.
Favorite.
Yeah.
It was my favorite, and I'm working with Marquetta now. With booking people and stuff. So I'm hands on. I love MUFON. So Hainer 1 was a good thing, John.
Oh yeah, Hainer 1.
Well, just
it got me. It's
briefly,
darn it, I'm going to join this thing.
Well, the difference between Ancient Aliens and Hangar 1 was we had a case file on every episode. It was thoroughly investigated, trace evidence, radar, whatever it might be. Ancient Aliens is just made up stuff. And I watched it until the third season, and they said Leonardo, who was it? Da Vinci was an alien. I said, what?
Could have been.
What? I
well,
stopped watching.
What? Maybe we can bring on Mike Barra. You two can do
Mike Barra.
I like good. Mike. Mike's a good friend.
Yeah, Mike was just on Fox Nation. What was that?
I love Giorgio Tsoukalos' hair, though. It's so fitting for the show.
Yeah, well, his show, it's like Pinocchio. The more he makes up about aliens, his hair grows. But,
hey, Earl,
but I'll tell you something else with Hangar 1, though. The most cases that we got, MUFON got, was the 2 years that the show was on. Because all of a sudden people discovered MUFON. They knew where to report the cases. And people, and I remember Jan Harzan saying that, John, about half of the cases we're getting now are historical because they felt comfortable coming forward.
I love the historical cases. Those are my favorites.
It's the best thing for MUFON is if we can get another TV show and get the name back out there.
I agree. I absolutely agree. I think it's important, and I think that now would be the right time. Because of everything that's in the media right now, and because it's finally okay to talk about this, and Congress mentioned us within the first 45 minutes of their hearing that we had, as lightweight as that hearing was, they mentioned MUFON in the first 45 seconds, and they said that it was a real thing, and that's disclosure for the general public. I mean, people that used to kind of roll their eyes at me and hum the X-Files theme now are calling me up and asking me stuff and send me videos and saying, is this real or is this a CGI thing? And
it's
all different. It's a new day.
I ran for governor earlier in the year, and I could tell you the UFO field did not get me any signatures. It did not. It did not. But
imagine that.
I get the feeling though that group that's controlling this is going to start producing the TV shows, and it almost seems like they're controlling the narrative on it. And I don't know that MUFON's going to have their own show like we had. It seems like that group is controlling how this is going to be rolled out and the entertainment factor, which is why they brought Tom DeLonge in.
Yeah.
Maybe they should try to get on Fox Nation.
Well, they got their own show. They have their own show right now.
Well, they should MUFON should try to get on there.
Look what happened with oh God, I'm sorry. I just senior moment.
I get a lot of those.
I knew what to say, and I
get those a lot of times.
TV shows and stuff, and those guys being in control. That was what I was going to talk about. I think that even the Skinwalker book that Colm Kelleher and those guys just put out. That the Pentagon edited that thing twice. I mean, a third of that book is not in that book. But they're very, very concerned about how the public's going to react to this thing. That's what I keep hearing. You know,
the opening scene to that book is one of the greatest I've ever read, with the 6 foot tall wolf walking up to the pen with the calves, and how they opened fire on it, and it grabbed the calf in its mouth and looked at it. It looked at them and just.
I have a cane, and this is my cane.
Just like Larry Talbot, huh? Larry Talbot's
That's my walking stick.
Yeah, that was one of the best openings to a book. As soon as I read that, you read the book in one night because it got you.
Yeah, start with the earthquake and build from there. You know, right? It's interesting times, and I think that I'm very glad and I feel blessed that I get to live in them and that I get to do what I'm doing. It seems like, to me, it's the most important thing. I think that there's so much involved in this, and human future is involved in this, and what happens with us. You know, I think that we're being prepared for the space age. We're not quite ready for Star Trek yet, but I think we're being prepared for it, and I think it's up ahead. And I don't think it's far away.
Earl, you look at politics now, and starting with maybe
I don't have to.
Well, I know, but going back to maybe the Bush era, they started dropping this new world order, and when you look at it, it's one government, one religion, one military. It kind of like what you would think of an alien planet, where they have a council, a federation, and they run the whole planet. Do you think we're heading that way? Because I see it more and more and more.
I think that diversity of ideas and beliefs, and that's what makes us interesting. I mean, if I could only eat one thing or listen to one style of music, I would be bored awful quick.
Well,
so
I agree with you. I
hope not.
Watching the United Nations, I would never want a non-American, let's say, running the country. They don't understand freedom.
No,
like we do.
I felt that through the screen.
What I think, is that our differences are our strengths. Really,
right.
I mean, everybody doesn't think the same way, and that's good. If we did, then we would be autonomons. We'd be like the little gray guys.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed about them was they worked in accord, like a surgical team. Nothing was. There wasn't a thought passed.
Well, do you think those
everybody knew where they're supposed to be?
Hey,
do you
gentlemen,
think those
real quick.
Real quick.
I don't think the little gray guys. I hope they're not angels. I don't think they're angels or demons.
No, androids.
Oh, androids. I think probably, yeah.
Hey guys, we got to get a commercial in here.
Oh,
quick commercial.
Okay.
We at Chasing Prophecy would like to thank Carnation for sponsoring our second hour and bringing these two together for a nice little reunion that we didn't know about. If you need some good morning breakfast, grab some essentials or grab some creamer for your coffee and enjoy your day. Thank you, Carnation.
Good job.
Good job, Jason. All right, y'all duke it out now. Good.
We have a question there. Is that for me? Okay. They should take a national survey and ask the general population how they feel or how they would react to sharing Earth with the aliens. Yep.
That ain't gonna work. I love you, Holly, but it ain't gonna work. No. They have their mind set up.
I have a question for you, Earl.
Sure.
When you go to start like an investigation on a case, or you've been on so many of them, how do you? We've heard so many different guests, and their processes, how they go about it. What is your process for your investigation? Do you have special equipment, or do you go to the areas and talk?
It depends
to
on the case. If it's a drone, you open up the video and you look at it and see it flashing, and it's a drone. We know how many times they flash in so many seconds and stuff. So I've noticed that it's a lot like Project Blue Book, where I know that Dr. J. Allen Hynek said that 90% of your UFO reports are usually prosaic. They're misidentified, natural and man-made objects. And that still seems to hold true. We get a lot of, mylar balloons that are spinning around and reflecting the sun back, and people will think that it's, coded towards them. And the thing is that people have ET on their mind, and that's a good thing. All right. It's a good thing that people are thinking about this. And this is just the reaction to that I guess cosmic consciousness that's out there right now, where people are and they see a light in the sky, immediately they think UFO, because it's cool to see a UFO right now. That's different. It used to be, you saw a UFO, you'd shut up, you're afraid they would put you away, but times have changed. So but when I get a real, a good case, I mean, I'm going to want to speak to everybody, all the witnesses. Hopefully you have more than one. Sometimes all you get is one,
Right.
But you can look at the provenance of the case. You can look at the person that came to you. It's helpful if they have a scientific background or a military background. If I get a case from a police officer and he says that he was abducted from his cruiser, I take that more seriously than if I, had like a crackhead, tell me that he was, abducted from the crack house. Although, I mean, you could probably abduct a crackhead from the crack house, I guess, if they really wanted his DNA. But so, I mean, you can, as soon as I look at a case, I think of the different field investigators I have. I think of their strengths. And I try to tailor the cases towards certain people in my team. And for a long time, I was the only person that was getting the abduction cases. I was it. I was the only ERT guy. So that was something that I quickly tried to fix. I got my assistant state director to become an ERT member. I just got another one of my guys who's very, very good at interviewing people. I mean, this guy would wring his hands over every light in the sky. And I was like, dude, you're working too hard, on the light in the sky. If it shoots out of the atmosphere, then that's an unknown. Okay. But if it's just a light sitting there, I mean, that could be, go and check your, planet star maps and stuff like that. See what planets are out. But I mean, a light in the sky isn't very exciting. But we get a lot of really high strangeness cases. We get a lot of close-up triangle sightings. We get a lot of the V-shaped craft out here with the little lights on the bottom. I had one out here last year that was actually picked as one of the top 5 cases of the year. It was at last year's symposium. I got to talk about it a little bit, where a woman who's a clinical psychologist and her MD husband were involved in this with a V-shaped craft, and their son. And it wound up, they had a close encounter with a craft. They had the Oz effect, where, times kind of slowed down for them in their car, and you couldn't hear things outside of their car. In these close encounters, our visitors control the theater. They control the lights, they control the action, and they kind of it's how you experience it. It's very, very strange. And when I see certain markers in a case, that I recognize them, and they kind of go in importance as far as how many markers are there. And that's kind of how I attack my cases. And I'm sending them out to my team more than, I think that our last state director was kind of overloading me with cases because he knew that he trusted my work. But what I've been doing since I've been state director is I've been really working on just getting my team up to, so that they're all, so I trust them all. And I do. I have a wonderful team.
Real quick question. Are you near Camp Pendleton?
Yes. Well, near, I mean, it's a couple hours away. It's up a little past.
Okay. Now, is there a lot of UFO sightings around Camp Pendleton?
They do have sightings there. They do have sightings. Historically, they've had sightings out there.
Is there bases underneath it, or something?
I imagine they do. I mean, it's a Space Force base now, so I imagine they must have underground.
Oh, it ain't a Marine base no more.
No, it's now officially a Space Force base. They changed it. It's a Space Force base. It says that on their sign outside, and that's Space Force.
Do you have any experience with Bigfoot coinciding with alien sightings? Because we've had several guests on. We've seemed to connect those two, connecting the dots with those two.
We had a state directors meeting in Denver, and we were kind of told that, MUFON doesn't do Bigfoot.
I heard
anyway.
about that.
I don't want to go. Yeah, but
about
you know,
that.
I mean, well, now if you know, I think it's a case of semantics. I won't use the word Bigfoot. All right, if I have a tall, hairy, powerful being that shows up near a UFO sighting or near a UFO, I'm going to call it a tall, hairy being that smells, you know, like whatever he
Squatch.
smells like. Squatch. But I'm not going to use the word squatch. I mean,
the
or
dog
the
man?
word orb is the other thing. You know, we were told
Could it
not
be
to
the
use.
dog man? And
I'm very, very interested in that stuff.
It's really just Sean Kelly.
What
in a
I'm told
costume
is that
walking through the woods.
MUFON does it's the scientific investigation of UFOs for the benefit of humanity, and that Bigfoot doesn't fly, right? But I think that it's related, probably. Personally, I think that you know, there's a lot of strange fringe stuff that happens around this phenomena. I don't think that it's all just one thing. I think
Earl,
that
when I was on their board back in 2011, 12, 13, 14, whatever, I came that close to convincing them of expanding the website to other fields, ghosts, cryptids, all of that stuff. Because I think there's a connection there. You know, why would the Bigfoot
could very
show
well
up
be?
on,
I think so.
you know,
probably.
in 5% of the cases, maybe you have a Bigfoot type creature there. I mean, some of this stuff
what I
seems
do is
interdimensional, you know.
I think it's semantics again. I think that you have to use I'm an old nurse, right? I just retired about a year and a half ago from a long career in nursing. And in nursing, you can't diagnose. So you have somebody come in that has the measles, you can't write down patient has the measles. You have to write down patient has petechiae, little red, you know, sores all over the face and body, the itch, and you know, you write out the symptomology and you describe it with descriptive language, and that way it keeps you from getting sued. You're not overstepping yourself, and any doctor worth his salt is going to open that chart up and he's going to read that and say, yeah, the measles, got it. You know, and I encourage my field investigators to use the same technique, that you don't call something an orb, you call it a spherical craft, because all orbs are not orbs. Okay. You know, the Foo Fighters from World War II are different from are different from Glinda's bubble in The Wizard of Oz, and it's different from Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know, it's different from I think that from the light beings that people have contact with. So what I tell my guys is, did it have a surface? What color was it? Was it solid? Was it, you know, a foot across? Was it 30 feet across? Was it a vehicle? Do you think it was an entity? You know, you got to describe the thing using descriptive language, and that's scientific, and that's the way they do it in science, the way that we should do it as well. So that cure for the Bigfoot orb, etc. I have no problem talking about an 8-foot tall, hairy creature that smelled bad, that was knocking trees together and standing next to a craft. You know.
Well, you know what you should bring up is on the investigative form, there is a box there for entities and a description.
Yeah.
You know, so you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about Bigfoot, but you know what? You got a box there for entities. So I don't know.
Everything's bureaucracy. There's always ways to work.
I think it's who's in charge and what they believe. You know.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Earl, did you hear on the news, on Google News, about the red lights? People thought that they were alien, like spaceships underground in the water. Then it turned out that a lot of people are saying they were fishermen boats.
How
do we know they really were fishermen boats?
I have to go out there, I guess. I mean, they do shrimping off the coast here. We see shrimp boats. I mean, I see them from the airplane when I fly out of town, and you recognize them. You can recognize them. But if if you're like the commercial pilot that put in a report last year, he was on East Catalina Island with his brother-in-law and his wife in the campground, and they saw a 300-foot spherical gold craft 10 miles off of the shore come up out of the water. Now, this guy had a pair of binoculars with him, and he's watching it. and he's a commercial pilot. He used to do the run along the California coast. His run, and he said that was exactly, geocentrifically between, the coast and the coast of Catalina Island, like right in the middle. And they watched this thing go up in the air, and he called his wife and his brother out, and it went back into the drink, and he's kind of, oh darn, and then it shot back out again, and it did the same little crosswise pattern, and then it shot up the atmosphere and was gone. And that was a good case. And but that was not a boat, not a shrimp boat.
Shrimp boat.
So, but every light, we had another case where, there was something under the water, and there was video of it, and I'm looking at it, and it was a submarine. We do have a submarine, huge submarine base in Diego here. So everything under the water isn't a UFO. Everything in the sky isn't a UFO. But sometimes it's.
Hey, Jen,
it's interesting.
Still have those couple videos that we were observing last week as those lights in the woods that we were going back and forth about. I wonder if Earl might
I
have some input on
I do have them.
See what Earl thinks about it. Before we let anything out of what we think.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a second to pull it up.
In your makeshift office.
My makeshift office. Yes, this is in my office. This is my boudoir. And I'm getting my office back.
It's pretty bright in there, Jenny. Are you sure you're in
Oh, I can't wait to get my everything is not right. I have my lights are coming in the mail. My green screen does not work on carpet. I found out. It's a retractable. You just pull it up, but it just wants to fall over. My camera everything is just not.
You're all discombobulated.
I'm discombobulated. I don't like that feeling.
Well, you know what? We got 2023 coming up, and it's going to be a brand new year.
Oh yeah. Are you going about with that Zodiac guy? He said I was going to have a good year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm all for a good year.
This past year.
This last year was good for me. I don't know. I was made state director, and I had all kinds of wonderful stuff. The UFO phenomena is just kind of at some of the best cases I've ever had over the last year. So I'm bringing it on. 2023, I'm all set.
Halloween's coming up soon, so
that's fun.
We got all the Halloween candies out in the store now.
Jeez.
Oh my!
Yep.
Oh my gosh!
What's your favorite?
They started early, huh?
Reese's, dude. Reese's.
Saves you the Kit
like
Kats.
Whoppers.
I went into Lowe's today, and they had all the Halloween drops and
those are fun.
And one of them was about 15 feet tall.
Yeah, I seen that one.
I guess it goes in the front of the house.
Yeah,
wait, I gotta get
cool,
the
but
light.
it's still not a real skull.
Oh no!
Fun
What's
stuff.
Jet dressing up as this year, bud?
What? Who are you talking to?
Jay.
Me?
What? You, Jay. Who's Jet dressing up as?
I can't.
Your
tell
son.
You. Yeah, I can't tell you right now.
All
It's a
right.
secret. It's gonna be awesome.
Okay, that's a good thing. Hey, my buddy
I'm
Tommy
still
Miller.
trying to find that light.
Tommy Miller has a question for you, Earl.
Sure.
Which state has the most alien sightings?
It's California, actually.
I heard
We're number-
Pennsylvania because they're just dominating.
there's people are fighting over that right now. Well, according to MUFON CMS, it's California, but I'm not sure.
That's when you. Well, wait, we got to put a clarification here. That's when you go by raw numbers, but if you take it by population, it's actually some of those smaller states that have a higher frequency.
Yeah, I
based on
agree.
the population.
But I hear Pennsylvania. I hear Pennsylvania's in the top 10 of UFO.
Yeah, it usually runs about 5. PA is always run about number 5.
I married a Philly girl, so I'm all for Pennsylvania.
God bless you, dude. God bless you, man. I'm giving you the sign of the cross on that one.
Turn you into a cheesesteak?
Do you love my cheesesteaks?
Yeah. Hey, Jason, do you remember if you sent it to me in email or messenger?
Email.
I can't find that one. I found everything else.
You probably deleted them.
Describe to me what you guys saw. It was in a forest, and there were little red lights.
Now they were white.
Okay,
lights.
I found it. I found it.
Okay, check
Yeah,
this
don't
out,
let
Earl.
anything out yet, John. We want to see what
Okay.
Earl thinks before we
Yes.
discuss it.
Give me a second to pull it up. Video file. Great, it's not on video file. Give me a second, guys. Okay,
So
share
Earl, what's the
screen.
scariest case you had while Jen's trying to pull that up? What's the like most phenomenal case that you got involved with recently?
Wow. I mean, there's a bunch.
Like the big wow. Like what's one that said, "Holy cow."
There's so many of them. The one that I'm working on right now that disappeared for 7 years is pretty outstanding. I mean, it involves crafts intentionally crashed into a hillside behind this family's home. The father was an Air Force guy that worked, had some work that he did with Project Blue Book. And the family was abducted for 4.5 hours after sort of being terrorized. They were, the sons and their friend were sitting in the front yard playing guitar, and they saw a blue and orange fireball come out of the sky and slam into the vacant lot in front of their house. But it was silent. It didn't make an impact sound. When it hit, it had like Tesla like electricity fingers that went and spread out on the ground, and they could see it as it moved along the ground. It lit everything up around it. These guys were, like 20 years old at the time, and this was back in the 1970s, and it's kind of like, well, that was weird. What was that a meteor or a UFO or what? But what started happening was that they started hearing this weird caterwailing scream in the back of their house. And it would be a scream and beep. Scream. Now, what screams and beeps? I mean, that's come on. What these guys, I have no idea. Well, that's not all. So they're looking through the window and they're trying to see what's going on. They call the police out. The police bring the searchlight out. They didn't see anything. And of course, it got real quiet when the cops were there. Cops left, and then it became closer and louder, and the beep was more pronounced. And it was sort of a low beep. And back in 1975, you didn't have a whole lot of things that would do an electronic beep, I guess if a skip loader or something, if you were driving it backwards, might beep, and that's about it. There's nothing like that out there. So anyway, it kept getting closer and closer. And so the father, who is an old Air Force guy, he and the son, and this is the guy I'm talking to now, it was the younger son, they went out to the front yard, and the house was built on an embankment. So they went up the driveway to the sidewalk so they could see over the house and could see the field. Well, they got up to the sidewalk, and there are these two fireballs like 3 feet across that are just hovering over the house. They were blue and orange in color. They looked kind of, the way they described Foo Fighters, that they had like a fiery surface to them, but they were hanging there with no means of support or propulsion that we know of. Almost like intentionally, as soon as they saw them, they both went and slammed into the hill behind their house. And the screaming kept going on, and the beeping kept on going on. The family, they went back inside. The father, because of his, apparently, the son says he thinks his father, because of his background with Blue Book and everything, they started figuring out that this was an anomalous thing. That this wasn't just, that this was what it was. They went up to the parents' bedroom. They're all trying to look out through the bathroom window, turn the lights out so they could see where the screaming is coming from. And this light starts coming up the staircase. It's a 2-story house. And they said it was like this solid thing, that it moved up almost like, like waves on the shore would move, and that it filled the room. The widow of the main witness, who I'm in contact with now, she was 6 months pregnant, and the last thing that they remember her doing was screaming, "Oh my God, I'm being probed by something." So maybe I might know 3 people that have been probed, but it was more like this, like this electricity that was going through her. She felt like she was being scanned, is the way that she describes it now. But that, she used the word probed back then. 4.5 hours then the room just filled with light where they couldn't see anything, and 4.5 hours later the younger brother found himself pacing back between the parents' room and his own room, and that's the most interesting case. That
was the birth normal? The child, afterwards.
The child was born with 3 sets of teeth. Two sets of children, the teeth that fall out, when you hit adulthood. Well, the kid went through that twice.
Wow.
So that was weird.
Sharknado.
Sharknado. Okay, so what are we looking at? Okay, so whatever this. Oh, okay.
You may have to rewind it, Jenny, or maybe not.
No.
Kind of reminds me of the Marfa lights or something, huh?
So what we have here is we had a guest, and it was an interesting conversation, and he showed us this and said that there's no way, it's real dense woods, nobody was over there. He thinks it's UFOs. We have our own opinions. We want to see, what do you think about these lights in this video?
Well, the fact that it's black and white is a problem, because I can't tell. I mean, it could be an emergency vehicle behind the forest.
That could be too. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. I had one guy that tried to do a hoax with an emergency vehicle once. He called it a UFO, and it was not. It was an ambulance. Turned out he had a friend that was an EMT. Not ERT, but EMT.
Wow. But no.
But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell because it's black and white. It's what kind of camera is that? Like a one of the little door cams or something, like a radio?
I don't know. He has a show. I don't know.
I think he said they were like pretty far away. So probably at night, with whatever night vision the camera had, that's probably why it looks black and white. But I don't think they were that close to that, was what he had said.
No, if there has to be a path back there, So I'm going to say it. I think they're ATVs.
I mean, you'd have to go out to the site and see, peruse the area. That's what I'd do,
Right.
Without seeing what's behind that tree line, you don't know what they had back there. If it was just heavily forested and it kept on going back, then I would say maybe that was something interesting. If there's a road running along the tree line there, then I would say probably.
I think there was a road there. There has to be, because there's just too many lights, and not even.
I mean, I'm really picky with videos and stuff. I haven't seen a whole lot that I like. There's a couple I really like. It's strangely the ones that I really like, people never even put into MUFON. I had some guy from the UK that got a flying disc on video and camera, but his whole attitude was, well, this guy was normally a debunker. And he said, well, I don't want to give it to MUFON because I don't want you to do to me what I do to everybody. It's like, well, that's a pretty impressive video, dude. Come on.
That's the first step, is to try to debunk it.
I know. Well, I think that it was near and dear to his heart. It was his UFO sighting, and he just didn't want to have it treated that way. So I respect him. I actually used the photo in one of my presentations because it's a good one. It's a disc, and you see it's hollowed out underneath, and you see this black space behind it in the blue sky. And what is that black space? Because it disappears a second later on the video. It's gone. It's like this black shadow shows up behind it. It moves into the shadow, and then it's like closes in, and it's gone. And this guy does not do CGI stuff. He's just a guy.
It's like, how do you know what's the CGI and what is it? I mean,
there's EXIF data. There's EXIF data, though. That's the thing. And if you take a video, take a photo, please, folks out there in Radio Land. You see a UFO and you get a bit of video, and you got your smartphone, take a photo, because that'll give us the EXIF data, and we can tell where it was, when it was, and we can tell if it was manipulated or not. And you can tell with a video if it's been manipulated too. You know, a good analyst can look at that and see the EXIF data and tell you if it's been put through Photoshop.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I put everything through my EXIF data checker, and sometimes sometimes they're good.
What are your thoughts on CERN?
On CERN?
On CERN.
Well, it's I hear that they're figuring out some pretty amazing stuff about the universe, the boson and all this, the God particle, and I'm sure we don't know everything that they've found out there. I'm sure a lot of it's been classified, but it's interesting, and I'm sure there's interest in it with our visitors too. Yeah. I'm positive. Tommy Miller is asking me the same question: which state has the most alien sightings? And I'll reiterate what John was saying, that California, technically we have the most UFO reports come in, but we also have the highest population here. So that doesn't necessarily mean that California gets all the good UFOs. It just means that there's somebody at your elbow here all the time. There are a lot of people everywhere, and so we get more.
Well, here's a question for you. One of my field investigators here did a study on orange orbs, and he identified 5 locations, bases under the water, and one of them was right off of L.A. What is that, Catalina Island? I'm not sure. What's that island right out there?
That's Catalina. Yeah, that's where they saw the Tic Tac.
Yeah, that's where he said the base was. You have any cases like that over the water?
I think you're talking about my buddy Preston here.
No, that wasn't the guy. He was a field investigator.
Oh,
here.
Okay.
I can't think of his name right now.
Oh, okay. In New York, was it?
No, Pennsylvania.
Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah, he did a study a few years ago.
But no, Catalina, I'm sure there's stuff going on there. I'm positive. I know there is, because that's where the whole Tic Tac episode happened, was east of Catalina Island. And that one case that I had with the commercial pilot and his family, I gave the coordinates to Kevin Day, and he, in confidence, told me those are the coordinates of where we first saw the Tic Tac. It's exact same coordinates. He said it's impossible for that to be a coincidence. That's exactly where it was.
Okay, I got a question for you. What's your theory on Kecksburg?
On what?
Kecksburg.
Oh, Kecksburg. I like to think that it was probably an alien craft. I hope it was. I mean, some say that it was, a Russian satellite or something that was coming back in.
Yeah, John.
But I like to think it was an alien craft. I mean, they did call out a retrieval team, and they treated it the same way that they treat most crash retrievals. So, but I don't know if we'll know. And
I think they were trying to set you up with that question, but I actually did with an engineer from Punxsutawney a few years ago in 2015. We took a real good look at it, and his theory was it was a spy satellite, capsules that were launched out of Johnson Island in the South Pacific to spy on Russia. And I tell you what, when we went through it, we were able to explain every aspect of Kecksburg, what the people saw, and how it related to this. Like, it was glowing green. Well, it had a copper alloy heat shield. It had 4 jets on it, and they said it looked like a 4-pointed star. So I don't know. At this point, it was pretty compelling that we think it was a spy satellite. And even Stan Gordon says he don't know what it is. It just happened.
So I think the president is aware of aliens, UFOs, or are they in the dark about that level of info? I think that the president is aware. Just from what I have heard and just from people that I know who are in the know, I do know that Donald Trump was told about what's going on. I know that that Obama was told. I know, and I imagine that Biden's aware of it. I think that they do tell the president, but I don't think that they're told everything. Again, it's curiosity is not need to know, right? And they do love to compartmentalize stuff. So I think that the national security elements are certainly told to the current POTUS. but I don't know that that every POTUS knows as much as another one. You know, I mean, I think that probably the one that knew the most was George Bush Sr.
Right.
And maybe that's why Reagan was so in the know about it, because and of course Reagan had his own encounters, a couple of them.
Yeah,
but he was the head of the CIA. He must, you know, and then the CIA has its fingers all over this stuff.
I think they wait about 2 years until they briefed the president on the UFOs. And I'll tell you why. Trump got in 2016. 2018 is when they told him about the Space Force. And of course, ego-wise, he came right out and said, I've created the Space Force. No, Space Force has been there since 1983. But so
I don't think anything's changed at Vandenberg. They just changed the name of it.
I use that as an example that I think they wait a while, maybe 2 years, and then they give them the briefing on UFOs or the technology we have. And I've always felt we have a Space Force that has been out there, that's been to Mars. I think it's been all over the solar system. And I had a cousin.
I've heard that from people I respect, so I can't say no. I you know, even a year ago, I would have said, well, I don't know, but I've heard that is true from some impressive people. So I don't know that we have like a fleet or anything. The feeling I get is that we've done some. We've had some success with reverse engineering, and it would surprise me after 70 years that we wouldn't have something, right?
I think we're much further along than that. I think
probably
we do have a small. I think we have a small.
Ben
fleet.
Rich, what did Ben Rich say? We have the technology to take ET home, but the public will never know about it. It's all locked up in black projects.
But then he said something about ESJ Harzan. How do you do the travel? And it was really,
how does telepathy work?
Telepathy, yeah. So you know, he's kind of indicating like, we got the technology, but you don't do it with ships. You do it with your mind, you know, and remote viewing almost, you know.
I don't know if that's what he was saying, though. I think what he was saying was that every single space in the universe is connected to every other space. It's, you know, why spooky action at a distance works. You know, it's just quantum physics as we know it. And it's not like, you know, the way things are separated, you know, apart from each other is kind of not really the way it actually is. It's the way we perceive it. And a lot of our I think a lot of our shortcomings as far as technology and why we aren't further along ourselves is just that we decided that certain things are impossible and we write them off. And it's a terrible way to look at things. Right. Yeah.
We mark them if we can't figure it out or get the information.
Yeah.
Have you ever read any of Carla Turner's books, Dr. Carla Turner?
I thought I've read her Taken. Was it called Taken? I think it was an amazing book. Is that the title? I have
3. I don't think it was Taken. She wrote 3 books.
It was the last one that she wrote.
Something of angels. I can't remember what it was right now.
I have it on my tablet. I just have to.
But what do you think about her descriptions of what was going on? You know, windows rattling, scratching on the floor, her son with his girlfriend trying to get her out of the light, come over here, somebody to meet you, into a dark area. They had shared dreams, all 3 of them, the son, her, and the husband. That, to me, that was one of the creepiest, her 3 books.
It's a weird phenomenon. It's a weird phenomenon. That's all I can say.
Get her on the show.
Well, you can't. She died.
You can't. She's not
died
with
of
us,
cancer.
Sadly. I wish we could.
And again, like your mother got cancer, Carla Turner, as she got involved in this with these cases, with her experiences, she ends up getting cancer and passes away.
Oh, well, that's
just don't get close to a UFO. That's one thing that you don't want to do, right? UFOs have radiation. They keep finding that out. And again, you know, the recent Skinwalker at the Pentagon book goes into that quite a bit. You don't want to get out of your car.
Have you ever looked at the Fire Officer's Guide for Disaster Control? The FEMA approved book that's in every fire department. chapter 13 is on UFOs and the threat. And you know what's really interesting is the guys that wrote it. The one guy, he was from Cincinnati. No, he was from California. The other one was from Cincinnati. But he saw the Battle of L.A. at 9 years old. So when he became like an attorney. He became a JAG in the military, and then he became this deputy fire chief of Los Angeles, whatever. He made sure in that manual, which is a FEMA-approved book, they put in about UFOs and the threat not to get under them. There's psychological damage involved in abductions. If you've never read it, you can buy it off of Amazon. You know, there's 4 editions. The first edition didn't have it in there. The next 3 did. But chapter 13, it's 13 pages, and he put it in there because he saw the Battle of LA.
Wow, I got to read that. Now I know the one bit of literature that I know about that's interesting is the booklet that the Rand Corporation used to give out to new employees, and that I got a copy, PDF copy of. But my the Rand Corporation was part of Hughes up until like 1961 when they kind of dissolved the relationship. But the Rand Corporation, they're the guys that built the underground complexes along with the Army Corps of Engineers. My mom's best friend, we called her Aunt Ellen, but she wasn't really our aunt. Her name was Aunt Severson, Ellen Severson. And she worked for the Rand Corporation, and she was a very smart lady. But they had a whole, just a booklet that they would give you when you started working for Rand Corporation that talked about UFO sightings. It talked about, the Guadalupe sighting and things like that. It was kind of, it was kind of along the lines of some of, Vallée's thought on this stuff. It wasn't just, UFOs, but other apparitions. And then they kind of tied it in together. But that they would hand that to you when you started working for the Rand Corp back in, I guess they handed it out up until about 1969 or so, that you would get one of those.
Well, back in the 50s, there were UFO officers assigned to every base. And, we once put in the journal wanted. I put a wanted poster, UFO officers to come forward. And 2 of them did. And they came forward and said, I was a UFO officer in the military, and that's all true, So, why would you have a UFO officer? You don't have a dogman officer. You don't have a Bigfoot officer. You don't have a ghost officer, but you and I believe ghosts are real. But you have a UFO
I do too.
officer. Yeah.
That's amazing. What's sad is, that generation is quickly slipping away
gone.
from us.
I know. Even anybody that served in World War II, that generation is slowly.
My dad saw Foo Fighters, tail gunner in a B-17. He didn't believe in UFOs. He thought it was some kind of atmospheric thing, but my mom would roll her eyes. She knew better, He couldn't wrap his head around it. He would walk out of the room, if the subject came up. But do
you have any knowledge or experience with the Physics 370 book that they used to teach the cadets at Colorado Springs at the Air Force Academy? Did you hear about that? The chapter, no. Chapter 33 was on UFOs.
Oh.
And I had a guy, it had to be 20 years ago. He emailed me the chapter, but I've never been able to find the actual physics book. Like I've looked in, Barnes and Noble, Amazon. I've looked all over. Anybody selling the actual book? Because I want to see the actual book so I know it's real.
You probably have to get it through eBay or something. It's probably out of print.
Everywhere. 2 of my cousins went to the Air Force Academy in 76 and 78. And they said, John, that was never taught at that point. But they taught it from 1968, 69, and 70 for 3 years. So by the time they went to the Air Force Academy, it wasn't being taught anymore. But it gave some of the best cases. And I mean, it's like if you wanted to first learn about UFOs, read this chapter by the Air Force, who says right at the beginning, they have been here as long as 47,000 years, and there's five species.
You can just look on all those ancient caverns, and you can see them on the side of the caves.
Yeah. I was in Australia 11 years ago. I can't believe it was 11 years ago, but we were in the red center of Australia, and we were hearing the same stories that you hear in the American Southwest. You're seeing the same petroglyphs. They gave their, space gods different names there, but they had Lightning Man, who was like Prometheus and came down from the sky with a bolt of lightning and taught them language and hunting skills and agriculture, I mean, it's a worldwide phenomenon. Look at the Dogon tribe, and it's just, I agree. They've always been here, but we live in very interesting times now because it seems to be coming out on the surface finally.
It's interesting how a lot of these different civilizations who supposedly never met each other have similar stories at the same time periods,
Yes.
Even the flood, the story of the flood. There's 136 cultures that talk about it at the same time. So it happened. I mean, it actually happened.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure. Of course it did. Yeah, we know that. It's an American Indian lore. It's in everything, I mean, and of course, some say the Great Deluge is what got rid of the first wave of
the Nephilim.
And whatever technology that we had was lost with that. And maybe. I mean, Carl Sagan's first paper, 1962, was a dissertation on ancient alien theory. It was. And for my, I guess Stanton Friedman had some correspondence between Carl Sagan and some government monkey mucks that I'm not sure how he got a hold of it, but Kathleen has seen it. Yeah. And Kathleen told me that Carl Sagan was kind of taken aside and told, well, it would be a shame if your career were to end now in 1962. Yeah. You can keep going the direction you're going, or else you could run, jet propulsion laboratories and send, stuff to Mars. And, so I guess that Sagan, and now, Paul Hynek is a very close friend of mine, and Paul has the correspondence that his father had with Arthur C. Clarke. Mm-hmm. And I've personally read a letter from Arthur C. Clarke to Hynek that said, I believe that some of your UFOs are real craft from other planets. Yeah. Said, I can't say that in public because I will never be invited to another moonshot. Yeah. But I think that you do great research and keep it up. So what they say out in public and what they say amongst themselves are two different things.
Well, Sagan and Friedman went to the University of Chicago together. Yep. They were in the same class. Yeah. Yeah. That's how they met. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Earl, it was a fantastic evening. Yep. Your stories.
Thank you for having me. What a great panel of people. I didn't know that John was going to be here. And I just had a wonderful time with you guys. So
yeah, very good.
Thank you, and would love to have you back on.
Thank you. I'd love to come back. I'd be honored.
Okay, right, so where somebody is in your area, they can just check out the MUFON page.
Yeah, just go to MUFON.com, or you can find me on Facebook. I'm just Earl Gray. I go by Earl Grey Anderson. Yeah, Earl Gray is my musician name, but it works because of the little, those little guys,
Oh yeah.
So what the heck, it works. There. Captain Picard, Earl Grey Pot. Didn't have anything to do with that. It was just a funny, rock and roll name back in the mid '80s. All right, you guys.
Earl Grey tea. Okay. Right. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You guys take care. Have a wonderful week.
Have a good one.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's the Jen. In the UFO field, all of these investigators, all of them have some very interesting stories.
Very interesting stories.
I mean, it's like, the thing you do is you keep asking them questions. And when the person can keep answering, you got to believe it's true. I've done cases where you ask them what happened next, what next, and you see they're trying to make things up. Those aren't true stories, but they all have really good stories.
They do. There's a reason why they're in the field.
Yeah.
It's just not something happened most of the time.
You just got to be careful not to be a true believer in everything, like wanting it to be true, you know, and wishing for it to happen. Me, I got no desire to see aliens or UFOs because I don't think they're friendly. I really don't.
No, I don't think they are either.
They say don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see.
Yeah. Yep.
True.
But it's interesting stuff. Every one of them have great stories.
Sean, you're going to be all right for your show. You're not looking too healthy over
Yeah,
here.
Sean. Maybe you should call it.
No, I'm good.
You got a fever?
I got COVID. Yeah, fever. Can't breathe.
I see you wiping your head and everything.
Yeah, I think
you just coughed and that wiped your head with it.
Hey, I'm so full of germs now. But I have a good guest on my next show, Into the Night.
Who's that?
It's called, her name is Nicole Antoinette, and she's on UPRN Radio 105.3. She's a psychic medium. She comes on at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock on Tuesday night.
Oh, so if I go on and ask you to do a reading, you'll do one?
I'll ask her if she wants. No, really. She's good. She's a very nice girl. Very nice.
Sean, you're not working right now, are you? With all
No, I'm not.
Okay, I was not going to go to your store to get one.
Well, you know, I'm glad we didn't meet because we were talking about that 2 days ago.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't we all meet at Panera? And here you go. You would have been.
No, I'm not going back to work
be a
until
spreader.
Saturday. Saturday, I'm going back. If it breaks.
Well, you have to test negative first.
But you know what? No. I was talking to the owner,
5 days.
and maybe she might be wrong. I don't know. But according to the new thing the CDC came out with, you can work if you have the COVID, right? But if you have the symptoms, no, listen, I couldn't believe it either. And she said, but if you have the symptoms, like, you know, coughing, chest, you know, tiredness, dizziness, you can't go back to work.
So essentially, if you're asymptomatic, you could go to work, still spread it.
Yeah.
But as long as you're not exhibiting symptoms yourself.
But it's cleared by the CDC.
He's
So
wiping his body off.
Why did we wear masks?
Your elbows sweating.
I'm sweating like a pig, dude.
Why did we wear masks for 18 months if you could go back and be a spreader?
That's why Fauci resigned, because he knows he's
he's retiring with a huge pension is what he's doing.
Yeah, well, they should take his pension away from him.
Yeah. I think that was one of the biggest scams on the American people. So
tell me about it.
But
what are we going to do?
So if anybody, any of the listeners on this show, please tune in for my show Into the Night. It's next. And
if I didn't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning, I would.
By the time I take this green screen down and move everything, it'll be like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Okay. All right, guys. Good show.
All right. Good to see you, everyone. Be
nice
safe.
to see all those happy faces.
Yep.
Thanks again for tuning in to Chasing Prophecy.
Torture Tuesday.
Yeah.
all right.
He's always gone.
Damn.
John's like,
Damn,
I
man.
don't even think it was like